Well, about a year ago, I had a really interesting experience. My parents had said they wanted to take us all to Disney World. So they were going to pay for the house we were staying at and our tickets, and we just needed to pay for our transportation down there and then food and stuff when we got down there. So it was so generous of them. It was super cool. We were really looking forward to it. And so originally we were planning on driving to Florida from Minnesota. It's like a 2-day drive, but with 6 of us, 4 kids and Tom and I, it was just the most economical solution, right? And so that was our plan, but then Tom had been looking, and around the end of December, he found some really inexpensive plane tickets. And so he was like, it would only be about $500 more if we flew instead of driving. And I mean, we knew with young kids it would just be a better experience all around if we flew. The drive down isn't so bad. We did a lot of road trips growing up, but the drive back, you don't always feel rested when you get back or like you had just been on vacation. And so what we decided was from January 1st of the year till the middle of February, when we went on this vacation, that we were gonna do a spending freeze. So we weren't gonna spend any money, and all the extra money we saved from not eating out, not buying things, we were gonna even go as far as not making any extra trips, not driving any more than we have to save gas. So I mean, we were gonna try and save as much money as possible to make up that $500. And so that's what we did. But about a week into this spending freeze, I could not believe what happened. So the first couple days of the spending freeze were really hard for me. Now, I'm not like a big purchase buyer. We had already been on the process of, simplifying our house, so I was aware of trying to bring less stuff into the house. For me, it was more things like Starbucks. Like, I realized that I used Starbucks when I was having a good day. Maybe we had a real estate closing, something went really well, we wrote a contract that got accepted, then for sure I deserved Starbucks, right? Or on the other hand, if I was having a bad day, then I also deserved Starbucks, right? Because it was a bad day. So it was just something small that could help lift my mood a little bit. And, similarly, I would see things in the dollar spot at Target, or, I'd find clothes on clearance for the kids, and I was like, oh, I'll just get this for them. And I realized I had developed these habits. Even though they weren't big dollar items, Tom was still the one that would buy the car accessories or whole cars or things like that. So to me, it felt like it's not a big deal. It's just, it's little things here, it's little things there. It's eating fast food or different things like that. So the first couple days of the spending freeze were hard because I realized every time I got in my car, I'd go to Starbucks, I'd go to Taco Bell, or I'd even just grab coffee at the gas station. I'd buy a soda water at the gas station, something, always. I was always getting some kind of treat for myself when I was out. And especially if the kids were with, then usually we were stopping somewhere or getting something for them while we were out as well. So the first couple days were very hard because it was just like this natural reaction. It was just wired into me that I would get these little things. And so to go somewhere, to get in my car and go somewhere and then not have that, it felt very weird, and it was very difficult. I noticed instead of running into Target to grab a couple groceries, I would just actually go to the grocery store because I didn't even want to be tempted by the dollar spot at Target, or certainly not those little red clearance tags, right? Like, those were my weakness always. And so it was really hard for the first few days getting used to this. But it was so eye-opening because I never thought of myself as someone who got into retail therapy, right? I mean, we joke about that term, but it's very real that if we're not feeling good, or something's not going right, or the kids are being crabby, someone was rude to us at work or in line at a store or anything like that, it's very easy for us to make an emotional purchase and justify it to ourselves. So the first few days of the spending freeze were hard. It was not fun. I was like, this sucks. This was no fun at all. But by the end of that first week, what I was so surprised by and what I couldn't believe is that I started finding other ways at home to get that same feel-good feeling without actually having to spend any money. I couldn't believe how I would just look forward to a bath at the end of the night with a good book. I would download free books from the Amazon library or from the real library, and I couldn't believe how much I just looked forward to having 15 minutes or a half hour to read a really good book, or making tea at home, or figuring out ways at home to make my coffee taste good, or even just more intentionally engaging with the kids and being interested in what it was they were doing or helping them. Like our 9-year-old, has been really interested in learning to cook and saying, we didn't eat out, so when we get home, why don't you help me cook dinner and do it together? Or let's make a special dessert tonight, just, out of the blue, just for fun with something that we have at home. And I could not believe after just a week of doing this spending freeze, not only how I was able to totally go from spending money to not spending money, but how these other things that I were finding were providing just as much satisfaction, if not more, because they didn't have the guilt attached to them and they weren't a strain on our budget. I couldn't believe that I was still able to find that same amount of satisfaction in non-purchases. And so I've heard from many of you that you're kind of in this habit of making these little impulse buys. And the reason it comes up in this context of, living more simply and decluttering our houses is that we all know that if we don't make changes, we can simplify our house all we want, but these things are just going to keep coming in. And so at some point, we have to deal with this consumerism and this retail therapy and this desire to purchase things to feel better in order to maintain a simplified house and just a peaceful house in general. And I think most of us know that this retail stuff, it feels kind of yucky, right? We know it's not a long-term solution. We know that it's not what's best for us, but also because I think part of this journey of living more simply is also being content with less physical items. And as we find that contentment, it makes it so easy to live with less. It makes it so easy to get rid of the things that aren't adding value to our life. And so I think most of us genuinely want to be more content. We don't want to feel the need to constantly be buying more things or trying to fill these voids with stuff. And we certainly don't want to be passing these habits down to our kids. So what do we do? Well, very similarly to what we did when we were going to Florida, I highly recommend doing a 30-day spending freeze, because most often we have to go cold turkey with these things. We have to get this flushed out of our system and experience what it feels like to not give in to those impulses to buy, to force ourselves to find these other ways to make ourselves feel better. It's not wrong. It's not wrong if we've had a bad day or something isn't going right, that it's a natural reaction for our brain to seek something to feel better. It is what it is. And so there's other ways we express it too, by eating things we know we shouldn't, buying things, mindlessly scrolling on social media. And so today we're talking about spending, but these other things can apply as well. So we just got to figure out ways that if, we just had a junky day, okay, it is what it is. What else can I do to help myself to feel better? And by doing a 30-day spending freeze, it forces us to do that. But what I want to encourage you with is that I don't think it's going to take 30 days. For me, like I said, it was after 1 week, I could not believe the difference. When I got in my car, I didn't feel that impulse to stop and get coffee or to run into Target on my way to wherever I was going after just a week. And so that's my biggest recommendation, is to do that 30-day spending freeze. Also during that time, you're going to want to avoid stores that would tempt you. Same with online spending. The reason I really like just reading a book, have you ever noticed, like, every time you go on Facebook, you go on Pinterest, there's always things that are wanting to make you buy other things like clothes and beauty products and all kinds of different, there's Amazon links everywhere, right? So like when I was reading a book, there was no Amazon links. There was no one trying to sell me anything. And so that's what I really liked about reading, was it totally detached me from the desire to purchase. But also I've noticed too, even if I'm just watching TV, like if they're eating and stuff, a lot of times that will make me hungry, or the commercials will make me hungry. So like I said, like a bubble bath was a huge thing for me, or reading, or finding a good tea that you like and just sitting, like I would sit like in the sun, like find some place where the sun was coming in the window and sit with a cup of tea and a book, like just for 15 minutes. And it was amazing how that recharged me. And it was so much better than going to Target, spending time at the dollar spot, going to the dollar store, or anything like that. But what else is really cool is that now when I do buy things, like when I need a new shirt or something like that, I enjoy the process. I shop confidently, I look around a lot, and then when I do make the purchase, it feels good because I know that it was something that I genuinely needed and not just something that I was mindlessly throwing into my cart at Target. So I hope this helps. I would love to know any tips that you have that have helped you to stop, doing retail therapy or spending mindlessly. Please share those down below. If this is an area you struggle with, share that too so that we can encourage you. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you subscribe so that we can keep in touch, and I will look forward to visiting with you again really soon.